Hello, this is my review of the Saitek ProFlight instrument panel. It's a pretty good piece of gear for Flight Simulator. I'm using it right now with Flight Simulator X. It's essentially a small LCD display that'll let you pop out any of the instruments and be able to tune them by hand. The display itself is about 3 inches by 3.5 inches, and it features 6 buttons here on the left hand side, which correspond to separate views here depending on what instrument you have chosen. There are 2 adjustment knobs here at the bottom, and then 2 buttons here in the center which allow you to select an instrument. There are 12 instruments that are available. Here's a heading indicator with a VOR, an attitude indicator, an airspeed indicator, altimeter, an an MFD, an engine panel with temperature gauges, RPM, oil temp, pressure, and fuel gauges, basic VOR, an ADF, a VOR with glide slope indicator, an HSI with an ADF and also a VOR, a VSI, a turn coordinator, and back to the original here. The great thing about this is that it lets you fly and just have a more hands-on experience. If you are a real pilot and you want to sharpen your skill a little bit, I'd really recommend having one of these because it lets you go through the switchology, not identically to what you would have in your own cockpit, of course, but it does make it so that you have to turn knobs. You can do your 5 T's, and it's really great for practicing. Another great thing is that in this one instrument you can put the airplane in autopilot and have it on heading hold and change the heading bug here, and at the same time change the OBS on one of your VORs if you want to do a practice hold or something. So right now I've got the game paused, and you're going to be able to see how we can use this panel in action. Okay, so right now you should be able to see the panel there, and I've tuned and identified my VOR as well as my ADF here, and if I unpause it, I can use the heading bug to change the heading, and it changes in the game. And I can also change the OBS for VOR1 at the same time. So let's say I want to intercept the 286 radial outbound. I've got a heading here of 340, and you can see it coming in there on VOR number 1. And while you're doing this, you can be briefing your approach, just kind of thinking about what entry you're going to do. I'm going to enter here using a teardrop. So as I see that needle centering up, I can go ahead and kind of start thinking about starting my turn. and doing all those things. So I can tune it here on the instrument panel and have the aircraft. Just go ahead and do that. So I can see on my DME I'm about 6.2 out, 6.1, and I'm tracking inbound there on the 286 radial. So what this does is it's really neat because it lets you sit here, chair fly everything you want to do, and just save money for when you get out to the aircraft. The panel itself, it's a little bit pricey, but I think if you were to justify the cost versus a flight hour, you'd be able to see that it's a good investment. And you can also use it to play around with some other instruments that normally you may not have in your aircraft, such as an HSI. So if you want to get some practice in on an instrument like that, and it's your first time on something like that, well, that may be something that you may want to do. So you can change the heading bug here. Again, try to capture that radial if it's getting away from you. Okay, now coming in, sure. A little bit more correction. So I think it's a pretty good instrument here. One of the things to note is that some people on the other reviews were commenting that if you use the original drivers from Saitek, you'll only get 6 instruments versus the 12 I just showed you. There was a recommendation to download the drivers from the UK website, which is what I did, and all 12 are there. I didn't even try to install the ones that came with the panel. Just do that and you'll have all 12 available. When you are not actually in the game, the LCD display is on and any of the buttons will turn it off, but the LCD backlight remains lit, so there'll be nothing displayed. It'll just look like a blank screen there. So if we go back to our heading indicator, okay. So with this, you can also see like what your wind correction angle there is, for, your heading versus the radial you got dialed up and all that. So it's all very useful for that kind of stuff if you want to practice and do those things. Again, the pros. I mean, it's a pretty handy tool to have, but it's expensive. But it works well with Flight Simulator, and I think it's a pretty good thing to have. Thanks for watching.